listening to Trail Tales, episode number 4, and I am super stoked to bring you guys this one. I have a good chat with my friend Mikey Brenkus, trail name Mullet Mike. Mullet and I hiked almost the entire Appalachian Trail together. That's right, we met on the very first night of our hike on top of Springer, and like I said, we made it almost the whole way together. We're going to talk about what happened there. We're going to talk about a lot of other stuff. We get into a fundraiser that Mikey did. He raised a lot of money, which is really fucking cool. We talk about some of his food choices, which in his own words had a very negative effect on his Thru-Hike. And we even get into a bit of a controversial topic in the hiking community. That is the topic of yellow blazing, or skipping sections of the trail and still counting it as a Thru-Hike. I gotta say, Mikey comes out kind of strong at the beginning of that part of our conversation, and he kind of has an aggressive comment at the beginning there. And if that pisses you off at all, if that offends you at all, I urge you to listen to the whole part of that conversation before you judge, before you make any judgments, because we do give credit to the other side of the issue as well, and I think we talk about it pretty thoroughly. And I just really hope that doesn't alienate anybody from listening to the rest of the show. To be honest, I almost thought about not including it in the episode, but I'm trying to keep this as real as I can. I'm trying to just put this shit out there for everybody, so I decided at the end of the day, I was going to leave it in. He said it, I didn't tell him to say it, so it is what it is. Anyways, before we get into it, like every single episode, I gotta say, if you want to contact me for whatever reason, if you want to talk some shit, I still haven't gotten any shit talk. I've said this every single episode so far. No shit talk yet, no hate. I mean, that's fine, but I haven't gotten any comments at all about anything, so, I want to hear from you guys. You can send me an email, trailtalespod@gmail.com, and you can also contact me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm thinking about getting a Facebook too, but for now I'm just sticking with those two. At trailtalespod. My personal Instagram is at Kyle Hates Hiking, because I'm just such a pleasant person. I also want to say that if you like the show, if you like what you're hearing, if you think I'm doing a good job for someone who's never fucking done a podcast before, I would really appreciate it if you helped me out by leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever your podcast streaming platform is. It would really help a lot. It helps rank the show higher so that more people get exposed to it, and I would just really appreciate it. I've also decided that, I don't have any fucking reviews yet, but once I get some, if they're 5 stars, I'm gonna read them at the beginning of the next episode and give you the credit that you deserve, so that would be really fucking cool. Alright, let's get into it. My good friend Mikey Brenkus, Mullet Mike, Appalachian Trail class of 2018. And bam, we're recording. Okay, so welcome to episode number 4 of Trail Tales. I'm already 4 episodes in. Still haven't launched anything, but I'm fucking doing it. It's all good. I'm here with my boy Mullet Mike, otherwise known as Mikey Brenkus. Mullet and I first met each other on the very first night of our Appalachian Trail Thru-Hikes. We both started on May 14th. And we hiked together for almost the entire trail. We'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But to start off, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it. I'm kind of surprised we got connected so easily. That was like the first time I've done one of these and didn't have to like reschedule it because of microphone issues or network issues and all that good stuff. So I'm stoked to be here. I'm stoked you were willing to take the time.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's go way back, way before you're on the trail. When did you first hear about the trail, and when did you kind of get the idea in your head that you wanted to do this crazy 2,000-mile backpacking trip?
So in 2015, I was in something called Rocky Mountain Youth Corps out in Colorado. It's just a trail crew, basically. And, I didn't really have any hiking experience before then. I went out there for a summer. I loved it. It was hard, but, it was fun. And the AT was, always kind of in the back of my mind. And, I just woke up one day, probably, 9 months before I left, getting ready to graduate college and just trying to figure out what I was going to do. I had a couple offers from a couple of different places, and I just kind of made a rash decision and followed through with it, and
Fuck
it
it.
ended up paying off. It was sweet, man.
Hell yeah. So it really was that kind of or that much of a rash decision, huh? You weren't like debating it for a while. It was something that you decided you wanted to do, kind of on the whim like that, yeah?
Yeah. So I was when I first started, I was like kind of, I really wanted to do it, and I thought I could do it, but like I didn't have that like full commitment.
Right.
So that's kind of when I met up with, I don't know how to phrase this, but it just pretty much comes back to the fundraiser that I had going on. That's
Right.
really what pushed me to over the edge, and I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. But
Yeah, why don't we talk about it right now? I wasn't sure when I was going to work it in, but since you mentioned it, we might as well
yeah, sure.
talk about it. So, Mikey did a fundraiser on his hike. He was hiking for your fire chief, right? Your former fire chief was diagnosed with ALS, and you were hiking to raise money for the family, right?
Yeah, so I'm just from a little town, Belleville, Ohio. About 2,000 people, and we got a little volunteer fire department. And I'm a firefighter around there. So 2 years ago, well, actually, it was 2017 when he got diagnosed. He was our chief at the time, and he got diagnosed with ALS, and that was a huge deal. And he kind of lost some income from a couple different places, from what I understand. So I kind of got together with his family. I had the trail in mind, and basically just like asked them what they thought about it. They loved it. So I set up a little Facebook page. I set up a GoFundMe, and that was pretty much it. I think at the end, over GoFundMe, I had $3,000 raised.
That's
and
awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. And I think I had around $500 just like directly given to me.
Like
so
cash.
That was kind of cool. Yeah. So that was nice. But that's kind of what put me over the edge to finally like go out there and hike the trail, which was scary, but because the thing is, like, if I were to do it and not have something like that behind me, not only would it be harder to like find a reason to keep going when times got really hard, but like especially at the start when I really didn't know what to do, and I didn't really know what was going on, and that's when I leaned on you a lot. But I always had that in the back of my head, like, oh, there's like kind of people counting on me for this, and that really propelled me. I would say for the first quarter, that was like a huge driver for me personally.
Right. And I remember over the course of the hike, especially as we got further along, you were kind of surprised at how many people were following you from this Facebook page, how many people were kind of like keeping up with you and cheering you on. Do you have any of like the actual numbers of people that like liked the Facebook page and any sort of statistics about that? I'm just kind of curious because
yeah, I think at the end I had about 300 followers on Facebook, and that was only Facebook. I didn't have an Instagram for it or anything like that really, but 300 followers and a lot of people who commented regularly, and people I didn't even know. And then I started getting texts from random numbers. Actually, we got this was after we split up, but one of the followers had a relative in Andover.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they came to check up on me, which was cool. But other than that, like Mike and Tina Bennett, they actually picked us up. Where was that? Around McAfee Knob?
Yeah, I think it was just before McAfee Knob. So yeah, like south central Virginia, kind of somewhere in there.
Yeah, so like that was cool that like something real and like physical came from it.
Yeah,
like these
definitely.
people drove all the way down from Ohio and took us out to get burgers. And they had Thru-Hiked in I think 2015. So we had a ton to talk about, and we were only at that point like a third of the way through.
Yeah, something like that. And you also had that person. Where were we? We weren't even in Virginia yet at this point.
Yeah.
The person who had a cabin near the trail that just kind of like left us some trail magic there.
Yeah, that was she had hiked the trail, I think in like 2008, and she went to the high school I graduated from, but I think she graduated like 15 or 20 years before I did. And she just kind of like got wind from it from that Facebook group.
So she didn't actually like know you before the trail.
No, I still haven't met her. I mean, she just left us like a 6-pack and a bunch of food and
some bananas.
Yeah, it was nice.
Some of that good stuff.
Some of the good stuff.
How because this is something we haven't talked about yet, because we really haven't chatted that much since we got back.
No.
How have people reacted since you got home? Like, are you getting like a lot of calls from people, or people like, I don't know, are people like fucking recognizing you on the street? Like, I don't know, because you said it was kind of a big deal back home. Like, how has the reaction been since you got back?
So I live in Columbus now, which is about an hour away from Belleville, and I've only been in Belleville a couple days, so I haven't really been in public there, so I'm not really sure how it is, but there's a lot of people that have like asked me to like put on like some kind of presentation or a speech or something, and I know we kind of talked about that before, but
yeah,
not much yet, just because I haven't really been around, but yeah.
Did anything ever come of that like speech thing? What was it, like the city council or something you said wanted you to come talk?
They're definitely interested, but I don't know. I was asked to do it a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, still recovering and just really wasn't in the mood. I feel like we've had a lot different experiences, like as far as recovery goes, because I'm still hurting, dude.
For real?
Oh yeah.
That's so crazy. I remember when Indy and I did our episode, he had said the same thing. He was like, yeah, I'm having a hard time like walking upstairs, like my knees are killing me. And honestly, I feel like totally fine. I haven't really had
insane.
I haven't had any aches or pains. I also haven't really done any exercise. I went for like one run, and I did like a 2-mile hike. And both of those were like shortly after I'd gotten back. I've been kind of lazy since then. I haven't really done shit. I should probably hit the gym, but no, I feel good. But like, what are your ailments? I guess like what's hurting still? I'm kind of curious.
Well, I'm starting to finally get feeling back in my feet a little bit. I get like pins and needles every now and then, which is weird, but it's mostly my knees, and that's like every day.
Damn.
I think I'm starting to think that's going to be like a lifelong thing, which is fine. Totally worth it.
No way. You'll be
I don't know, man. Dude, I don't know. But yeah, definitely the back too. And I've been to the chiropractor a couple times. That's definitely helped. But I would say the back for sure. Also, since I've got back, and I talked to Flossie actually last night, but he kind of said the same thing. But especially when I got back, I was sleeping like at least 12 hours a night, which I didn't even know I could sleep that long, and now it's finally starting to taper down to like the normal like 8 hours. But for the past month, I would say definitely more than 10 a day, which I've never been able to do. And I guess that's not really an ailment, it just kind of seemed weird to me.
Yeah, I'm so surprised at how banged up both you and Indy are, because
dude,
I wonder if it maybe has something to do with the fact that I've just been like hiking for like a number of years beforehand. Yeah. So like my muscles and my joints were just like more used to it. I mean, I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. I did an episode with Flossie last night. I should have asked him that, how he was feeling like physically since he got back. 'Cause that's pretty crazy, man. Like, I don't know.
Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with diet. I really do. And obviously we'll get into that whole thing at some point in this podcast. But,
oh yeah, I got a whole section on food. I'm stoked.
Yeah. But I think that was a big deal too, because I definitely didn't eat as much as you did, and I really didn't take care of myself really as good as you did, in my opinion.
It's tough to take care of yourself well out there.
Yeah.
You're beating the shit out of yourself every day. It's really tough to have a good diet, like you just said. I don't know. It's kind of a shit show sometimes, but I kind of wanna take a step back to some of our first days on the trail.
Oh, jeez.
So like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Mikey and I met on the very first night. We had both started that day, and I feel like we I feel kind of weird saying bonded, but we kind of bonded at the beginning over how like nervous we were, I guess, like how freaked out we were that we're about to undertake this fucking crazy hike. So take me back to, let's say, that very first night. How were you feeling? Like, and how did you kind of come to terms with what you were about to try to do?
Well, let me take you back a little farther before, just so you can kind of get my mindset. I bought the Ultra Lone Peaks, which is I can't remember the name of the actual, like, oh, it's called Zero Drop. That's what it's called. So there's Zero Drop in there. It's like a different shoe, really. You have to like kind of ease into it. And before I left, I was running half marathons to get ready, which is funny because that definitely doesn't get you ready. But I think 9 days before I was supposed to leave, I was supposed to start on May 9th. I ran a half marathon in them and couldn't walk for like, I'd say 5 days after that. And I pretty much thought that I wasn't going to be able to hike. Ended up just like actively rehabbing it as much as I could.
And you attribute that pain because of the shoes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I had run 2 half marathons in normal shoes like in the months coming up to that. And that last one, I don't know why the hell I did it, but I changed to the Zero Drop Ultra Lone Peaks, and that just really boned me.
So what is, like, because I didn't hike with Zero Drop shoes, like what is the difference between those and like normal trail running shoes, say?
So the main thing that I've heard, and honestly I don't really know for a fact, but a normal shoe kind of has your entire foot like sloped forward. The Zero Drop is like literally just like flat.
Okay.
Like there's it's not contorting your foot anyway. So and I definitely felt it at the start. Probably the first 2 weeks I felt it. Like I would feel things in my like Achilles and my lower calf. Like definitely they were not used to being down so low, and they were being stretched out on top of going from just normal life to hiking every day. Like, I don't know. If you're going to do the Zero Drop things, I would definitely recommend that you ease into it, walk around with it. Start wearing them like a month before. Just
don't run a half marathon in them before you hit the trail.
But anyway, so I finally like get, rehabbed enough to where I think I can go. So my dad drives me down. I get to the visitor center to get my tag, and I asked the lady how to get to Springer. So you can either do the 8-mile approach trail, or you can go 1 mile like further into the AT and then hike a mile back and get to Springer that way. That's what my plan was, just because I was starting late, so I just wanted to save as much time as I could. Yeah, the lady wouldn't tell me like how to get there. I asked her how do I get there, and she's like, no, I'm not telling. Like, we don't tell people that because we don't want people doing it. So I was starting this huge project. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had done a lot of like homework, but I'd never hiked before. Now an extra day is thrown in, and then on top of that, in the 3rd mile, I saw a bear. And at that time, I don't really have a lot of experience, so like that really freaked me out. I'm thinking, man, I'm like way over my head on this. So that first night was just like completely terrifying. I get to the shelter, never seen a shelter before. I go to set my stuff up inside, and this kid spills a bunch of ramen inside, and I'm thinking, there's definitely bears coming. All the just classic like beginner hiker thoughts you would have, just pretty much scared of bears. Yeah. I had just gone through all that, and then just starting that way was really hard. And then I don't know, the next day I think that was when we actually started hiking together, and I was asking you a bunch of questions, and I was getting a little more comfortable.
How many days, or just can you give me an estimate of how long it took before you like settled in, where you're like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing now. I just got to keep grinding and just make my way up the trail.
I started to feel comfortable right when we lost Gummy Bear, or West Virginia. Where was that? That was about 100 miles in.
Right around Franklin, North Carolina was the town there.
Yeah, Franklin. It was awesome. We went there and had beers at Outdoor 76, which for all you future thru hikers out there, definitely stop at Outdoor 76. It's a great place. Yeah, that's when it was pretty fast, and I kind of knew, we had a little crew going, and I don't know, everyone was extremely reasonable, and that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting like a bunch of like loose cannons out there, but I don't know, that I feel like that's why we made it so far together, is because we're just like two very reasonable individuals.
And I think we were kind of like chasing the same goal, I guess. We kind of had
Yeah.
the same style of hiking, the same objective. And believe it or not, people who have hiked the Appalachian Trail before will know what I'm talking about. But people are out there for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Some people are out there more to just kind of like have an experience, to have a good time, meet a lot of people. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's also the people out there, kind of like you and I, who are more concerned with, I guess, the endurance, like athletic aspect of it. Like we were very motivated to hike every single mile of the trail. And, that's the reason we were out there. We weren't necessarily out there to kind of hang out at the hostels and take in the trail culture as much as some of the other people were. So I kind of wanted to ask you, was that like your objective from the very beginning, or did like kind of hiking with me like influence that? Like, I guess, what was your objective from the start before you got to Springer and before we met each other?
I mean, mine was definitely to do the whole thing and do it in a timely manner. Yeah, I have a I have a girlfriend, so she was rather angry that I was leaving. So I kind of was doing it for that, and I definitely like it more for the challenge part than like the really any other part. I'd say another reason is we just didn't have time.
Yeah.
Starting May 14th, you don't have like a whole lot of time to mess around. I mean, you finished what, October 1st?
Yep.
So you had a solid 2 weeks, but I mean, it was starting to get uncomfortable there at the end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, especially at the start and in the middle, we were just, I mean, I think we both were comfortable that we were going to be able to make it in time, but there was always that thought in the back of your head when you're like, oh, should we zero today? Or, oh, should we do like a short day? You're like, well, can we?
I know for me, it wasn't until I got to like Harper's Ferry that I kind of like chilled out a little bit. I know for that first like whole half of the trail, it was definitely not just in the back of my mind, but it was like at the front of my mind for pretty much the whole time. I mean, that's why we only took probably like 5, 6, 7 zeros for the whole first half of the trail, something like that.
We took, oh man, I took a total of 7 before Harper's Ferry, and I took 1 or 2 more than you did, because you went ahead. But yeah, we were definitely kind of in like freak out mode for that first half.
Yeah.
And then you hit the middle part and it's just flat, and that was when we were hitting mid-20s like daily, and I'm not going to say easily, but I mean comfortably.
Yeah.
I would say.
We were obviously pretty damn conditioned at that point, so.
Yeah.
It really wasn't until, I want to say, like, Hanover, New Hampshire, that we started to not shoot for, like, 20 miles a day, on a full day, not talking about a Nero. It wasn't really until then that we started to bring down the mileage a little bit, and that was because we kind of had to, because that part of the trail is just a lot more difficult, but...
Yeah, you gotta... That's a huge thing, I think, in through hiking, is you have to be reasonable, and you've always got to be thinking weeks ahead. Like, okay, I could do however much now, but how is that going to affect me?
Right.
Down the line. You can't just be pulling 20s like through the light. Some people can pull 20s and stuff through the lights and through the harder sections, but just for like the average through hiker, you just gotta constantly be, have that in mind, like how it's going to affect you in the long run.
Right. Yeah, some people can do 20s through that really hard shit, like you just said. Do you remember that guy we met at the Notch Hostel in Lincoln, New Hampshire? The shuttle driver guy that was working there?
Yeah.
I follow that dude on Instagram, and he is a fucking animal, dude. I don't think you were there when we were talking to him around the campfire that night, but he was attempting to do something called the Grid in the White Mountains in New Hampshire.
I've heard of it.
Which is, for those of you that don't know, it's trying to hike every single 4,000 footer in the Whites, there's 48 of them, in every single calendar month. And not only that, but he was trying to do it in an entire year. And he's still doing it now, which is why I bring it up. He's trying to hike every single 4,000 foot peak in every single month for a year, which is fucking insane. And I hope he's actually going for the time record too, because I was actually talking to him about it a little bit the other day.
Jeez.
I'm gonna try to have him on the podcast at some point.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Fucking so crazy, because that's some hard hiking for sure. So everyone that does a Thru-Hike's got some stories, right? I've got some stories. I'm sure you've got some stories too. So before we go any further, I feel like why don't you pick like a couple of like the craziest stories that you can think of and just kind of talk about them a little bit. It can be hiking related, town related, hitchhiking. I know fucking Indy had a couple crazy hitchhiking stories.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What are some of the stories that stick out to you?
Let's see. Well, for starters, so obviously we were together in the Smokies, and
that was a shit show.
We had about 5 days of just horrible weather, cold, horrible, just couldn't see a thing. And we get to Newfound. I think it was Newfound Gap.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's kind of a long hitch. I think it was like a 15-mile hitch down into Gatlinburg, and this guy, it was one of the first hitches we ever had, but this guy tells us to get in the back of this truck, and it's just full of trash, which is very fitting for the state that we're all in.
We were quite literally sitting on trash bags in the back of the truck.
Yeah, just full of trash. And he rolls down the window in the back, and he's like, hey, there's some beer in the cooler, like if you guys want some. So we just started, drinking beers on the way down. That was pretty cool. It was so nice because those past 5 days were just so horrible, And literally the second we even start getting into town, we're drinking beer and just like relaxing. It was like, whoa, okay, I can do this.
So good. Anything else that comes to mind? You can take a second to think about it, because I can like cut shit out and edit too. So
okay, yeah, I'm trying to think, man. It's weird. It's just kind of weird because like everything that I experience, you pretty much experience too. Let me talk about Joe.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so we were Lehigh Gap in Pennsylvania, and we were gonna try to find a place to stay. We all kind of had different hiking speeds, so we just decided that we were all just gonna hitch to this McDonald's. So we get there, and Indy got a hitch with a guy that offered to like let him stay and do his laundry and stuff. So he calls the guy up, and the guy agrees to have, what was it, 4 or 5 of us?
It was 4 of us. It was you, me, Indy, and Flossie, I think.
Yeah. So this guy just comes, comes in, shakes all our hand, like throws our stuff in his car, and just drives to his house. His name's Joe. He's a chiropractor in what's the Slatington, I think.
I think it was Slatington, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and we get there. He throws our laundry in the washer. We all take showers. He makes us a spaghetti dinner, and we just kind of hang out. We get to talk with his sons, and his wife comes. None of them bat an eye. They're all just so nice. And then in the morning, he brings us back. I thought that was really cool, and I kind of wrote about that on my Facebook Hike for ALS fundraising site, and people were like going crazy over that guy. He's famous in Belleville now.
Maybe you should have him for your presentation in front of the city council.
Dude, maybe you should have him on the podcast.
Dude, maybe I should.
That'd be awesome.
I don't know how I'd make like a 45-minute to an hour episode.
Yeah.
But I should. Joe is such a nice guy. We kind of talked about him a little bit in Indy's episode as well. And the trail magic thing is so crazy. I mean, I kind of like knew about it before I went out because I had done hiking before.
Yeah.
But how much did you know about it before you hit the trail? Did you know about like trail magic and that sort of thing?
Well, I was preparing for probably about 9 months. So like any other AT, prospective through hiker, I was watching like hours of AT YouTube videos, anything I could get my hands on, reading books, and I knew what it was. I didn't really know how it worked. And also I was kind of not really expecting it, especially at the start, just because we started so late. And I would say I was right for the most part. I mean, at the start, any trail magic we got was pretty much by accident.
Yeah.
it wasn't until we started catching up to the people who started, middle of April, start of April, where we were hitting like, people who were actually set up and trying to feed through hikers, which was really nice. Oh my gosh. I'd say the best one for me was probably before MISCELLANEOUS. I don't know if you stopped at that one, but...
Yep. I remember I was just heading up the mountain as you kind of like came up and saw the table and were like, okay. Fuck yeah, free food, let's go. Get filled up for this crazy climb we're about to do.
So I was, and you know this especially, but I was like scared to death of the whites through the entire thing. Just because on all the maps and all the guides, it just looks so nasty.
And plus everyone like hypes it up before you get there and all that shit.
So MISCELLANEOUS like the first 4,000 footer, and it looks like a beast, and it was a beast. I mean, I got a quarter of the way up, and there was like some pasta there, drinks and Gatorades and whatever, and that was just like, oh my, like, okay, I'm gonna do this. It kind of
fuck it.
Yeah, it kind of put all doubts to the wayside.
It's kind of funny because that day was the only day that I got like a full-on hiker feed, like at a trailhead. Yeah. And it's funny because it actually happened 2 different times that day. And those are the only 2 times on the entire trail that it happened. So
at the very end too.
We got it at the beginning of the mountain before we started to go up. And then when we came down the other side before we went into town there, we got it again from a different crew.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was good.
That was so good. So let's jump into some food conversation, because I don't think I've actually covered that on the podcast yet. I talked about gear when I did my episodes with Indy and when I did an episode with Taylor, but we only talked about gear. We didn't really talk about food at all. And I think you're kind of a good person to talk about that with, because you kind of had a different food setup than most people, I would say. Because you sent your stove home when we were in Hot Springs, North Carolina, which is only about a little bit less than 300 miles into the trail. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
So, like I said, I was pretty new at the start. I mean, I was brand new at the start. So I had a stove and gas and everything, and I just found myself being so tired at the end of the day that I just didn't even feel like messing with that stuff. So in Hot Springs, I sent it home and just started cold soak. I cold soaked, and it didn't go very well.
Oh, what is cold soaking? Why don't you kind of explain that to people who might not be familiar with the process?
Sure. So you can take like a Northside or a ramen, and you just get like a applesauce container, clean it out, and like maybe an hour before I was ready to eat, I would put like 1 or 2 Northsides or 1 or 2 ramen noodles into that container with water and just let it soak and just eat it cold when I got to camp. And honestly, it was just because I was lazy. But it tasted terrible. It got the job done. But no, it didn't. I can say that pretty confidently, that I think that was pretty much the biggest mistake I made on the trail.
Really? So all that time I spent nagging you about getting your stove back, I was right the whole time? Is that what you're saying? Is that what
I'm hearing? Yes.
So good. So you would have done that differently then, you would say, going forward?
Yeah. I just think, I was getting really burnt out on the things I was eating. I was eating like pepperoni sandwiches and a lot of tuna, but just I couldn't get enough calories in, and it really came back to bite me at the end, and that's why I only made it 2,040 miles. In my opinion, that's why I couldn't go the last 150 miles. Yeah,
because we're gonna talk about what happened at the end in just a minute, but I know you definitely lost a lot of weight. I was looking through some of my pictures from the hike a few days ago, and there's a picture of you, me, and Breezy, who I'm going to try to have on the show at some point.
Yeah.
We were standing, it was at Newfound Gap again. It was right by that sign that like separates the border between North Carolina and Tennessee, right in the middle of the parking lot there. And I was like, shit, Mikey is like definitely a little bit. You weren't fat. I'm not gonna. Obviously, you weren't fat. You were hiking the Appalachian Trail, so you weren't fat, but you definitely had a little more body weight, I'll say, than you did towards the end in some of the pictures I was looking at there. So you again, you said you would do that differently. You would eat more. What food were you eating exactly? Can you kind of take me through like what you would have for breakfast, what you would have for lunch? I know you said you were doing the pepperoni sandwiches and the cold soaking for dinner. Just kind of like take me through your food, I guess.
So for breakfast, I would usually just have a Pop-Tart. I was never really hungry in the morning. I never have been. That's kind of like a personal thing. But I would just have that for breakfast, and then I'd pack 2 bars in my side belt, and between breakfast and lunch, I would eat those. Usually, I try to eat like at least every hour and a half. Just get something in, you know.
Right.
For lunch, I would either have a pepperoni sandwich, a tuna sandwich. I tried to stay away from anything that I had to prepare because, you know, at that point you still have miles to go, and I just wanted to get the food in and, you know, lay down for a little bit and then get right back to hiking. I didn't want to, you know, I know Indy, like, I saw him a couple times, you know, get out his stove for lunch, and I just really wasn't interested in that. And I really didn't go as fast as some of the other guys, so for me to, I would have made it, obviously, but for me to comfortably make it at the end of the day, you know, at the time that I wanted to finish and have enough time to relax and set my stuff up and, you know, hang my bear line, doing all that stuff in the night really sucks. But so for lunch, I'd just have like a sandwich. I'd have a lot of just little snacks, chips and stuff. Sorry, I'm kind of saying everything in broad terms, but I'm having a hard time even remembering what I really ate because I didn't really eat that much. You don't want to remember it. Yeah, I don't want to remember it.
It's all fucking junk food.
Yeah.
It's all disgusting, yeah.
After that, I would put 2 more bars in and eat those between lunch and dinner. And then, you know, just do like a cold soak for dinner, or sometimes if like in Pennsylvania and New York when we were hitting roads and towns like all the time, a lot of times I'd just pack out like a sandwich or, you know, Subway or just something a little better than just letting ramen noodles soak.
Yeah, for sure. For my food, because obviously everyone cares about my food because I'm the host. I'm the fucking big guy here. No. I think it could be valuable kind of just going through a little bit of what I had to. For breakfast, I did pretty much the same thing as you. I would have either like a pack of Pop-Tarts or some honey buns, you know, some of that good stuff, nice nutrition in the morning. And I would do pretty much the same thing for lunch. I would have a couple bars in my hip belt to snack on just while I was moving throughout the day. For lunch, I would do like potato chips and those Milano cookies, dude. Yeah. Fucking so good.
Dude, those so good.
I can't eat them anymore, but...
Oh, come on.
I definitely... Dude, I can't eat anything except for pepperoni. I can still eat pepperoni like on a pizza or something. Not straight, but I pretty much burn out on every single food item I had by the end. But,
yeah.
And then for dinner, I would do... Because I had a stove, unlike Mullet, I would make one of those Knorr sides, which... If you've probably seen them in the grocery store before, if you're not familiar, they'll just be in like the rice aisle. They're just like little bags of instant pasta, basically, or instant rice. And I would make one of those, and then I would load it up with pepperoni and hot sauce, wrap that shit up in a tortilla, and I pretty much ate that for 4.5 months, which makes me gag now that I think about it, but somehow I got it down. Although I gotta say, I was going through the 100-mile wilderness at the very end of the trail. I was like getting really burnt out on it. I didn't really eat too much going through there. Man. Like it was so bad that when I got to right before you enter Baxter State Park, there's like a little camp store there. I think it's called A-Ball Bridge Store or something like that. And I was pretty much out of food coming out of the 100-mile wilderness by then. Damn. I had the chance to like buy more stuff just for the last night and then the next day on the climb up Katahdin. And I was just so sick of all the food that I like bought a couple candy bars and like one thing of ramen. And I was like, I don't even care. I'll just starve myself for this last day. Screw it. Fuck it. Which I kind of came to regret that night, but you know, I fucking got through it. So, okay, what were you going to say?
Oh, so I wanted to ask you, did you have like a general mindset going through the whole thing? Did you kind of have a hiking philosophy? Like what were you kind of aiming for? I know you were obviously trying to finish it like I was in a timely manner, but did you have a hiking philosophy or anything like that, a mindset really?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I know we were both very, very motivated to do the entire trail and do every single mile. So I think that's kind of like what you're looking for there, right? Like,
Yeah.
kind of how we were both more in the camp of, I don't know, some people would call it purism. People would call us purists. I don't really like to say that we were purists because that kind of, I feel like that kind of comes with a negative like connotation sometimes. Like we weren't kissing every single white blaze.
Yeah.
We weren't like backtracking on the roads if we got dropped off at the other side of the parking lot or anything crazy like that. But you know, we were trying to do every single mile. And for those of you who haven't been on the AT before, we kind of talked about it at the beginning, but you're going to meet people that basically, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You're going to meet people that skip sections of the trail. Some people will skip big sections. Some people will just skip, 10 miles here and there or 10 miles in one spot and that's it. And for those of you who are trying to do it, I guess, a little more thoroughly like we were, trying to do every single mile, that's definitely something that might get on your nerves a little bit. I'm treading lightly here because I don't want to like alienate anybody who did skip miles, and I don't want to say that that's like the right way to do it, the way we did it. But
So I'll say something about it.
Okay, go for it.
So I live in Columbus, Ohio, and if you're, in the area and you've yellow blazed, you can come on over and I'll kick your ass because fuck you. It's such bullshit, man. Like I don't understand it. I'll never understand it.
So for those of you who don't know, yellow blazing is another term for skipping miles because the roads have the yellow strip of paint up the middle. And so that's kind of like the lingo there. People say, oh, I yellow blaze that section. It means they skipped that section. So we definitely complained a lot about that on the hike. I'm not going to say that it didn't piss me off, but I definitely, now that I've gotten back, it's not really something I think about too much, obviously, because I'm not on the trail, but like, it's not something that I look back on and am still like as frustrated by when I was on the trail, I guess. Like, I don't know, how do you, has your perspective, I guess it sounds like your perspective hasn't really changed much since then, but it's tough, because at the same time, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. It's just a hiking trail, and people are out there to just have their experience, and, who am I to say that I'm doing it the right way or you're doing it the wrong way? I think at the end of the day, it just is kind of frustrating when you complete the trail and then you see people who are claiming to have completed the trail that didn't actually hike every mile,
Yeah, it's definitely like it's totally an ego thing. Like that's what it comes down to. I
absolutely
like try to just say, hey, only worry about myself, or it's their thing, they can do whatever they want. But man, like after a long day, you get to town or something and you see somebody that clearly shouldn't be there. It just, man, it's frustrating. I still, like, I can't really think of any other reason than just your ego kind of taking over. But it's, oh man, it's just so far. It's a hard pill to swallow. I never got into like, obviously I would never like call someone out for it. They can do whatever they want, but man, it's tough.
It's definitely one of like the most debated things within
sure.
the Appalachian Trail community. I hope that it doesn't like piss anybody off, because like I said, at the end of the day, do whatever the fuck you want. We were never, getting into arguments about it with people.
Yeah.
We were never making a big scene about it or causing a fuss, but yeah, it definitely frustrated us a lot because the 5 of us, when Pac-Man was kind of in there as well, we're all like pretty motivated to do every single mile, like I said 1,000 times already. And just seeing, so like when you pass somebody that you know isn't hiking as fast as you are, and then you see him again like a week later, you're just kind of like, you do a double take. You're like, wait a minute, how did you get here?
Yeah, how did you get
it's
here?
It's kind of weird. I don't know. We're probably gonna get a lot of shit for that.
Oh,
but
for
you
sure,
know what?
dude, for sure.
You know, I don't know. Everyone's got their opinion on it, I guess. It was weird for me because I didn't really expect to see that many people like skip sections before I left. Because when I started the AT, I kind of came at it from like a peak bagging perspective. So
Yeah.
I've been working on hiking all the 4,000 foot mountains in New York and New England for the past couple of years. And it's like, unless you hike every single mountain on the list, you're not done yet. Like you haven't completed the list. And I kind of came at the AT with a similar perspective. So when I saw people that were skipping chunks of the trail for various reasons, it just kind of threw me for a twist, I guess. I don't know. It's a touchy subject for sure.
For sure.
So I guess since we were just talking about people who skip sections of the trail, we can kind of transition into what happened to you towards the end of the trail. So this is something that we really haven't talked about together yet. So I'm kind of curious to hear, you know, besides just over a couple Facebook messages, what happened. So for the record, Mikey was not able to complete his Thru-Hike, but he was literally so fucking close. And it kind of, it breaks my heart. Like I was so bummed out because I didn't find out that you left until it was the day that we all finished. So I was super bummed out. So like, kind of take me through what happened. Like what was going on when you were in, what was it, Caratunk, Maine, where you got off?
Yeah. So we split up at Grafton Notch. That was what, mile 1900?
Something like that. Yeah. It was like our second day in Maine.
So yeah. So I ended up getting like really, really sick. To the point where I had to take 2 days off. I thought I was only going to have to take one, but going through like, what is that notch? Mahoosuc Notch and Mahoosuc Arm. And
which is the toughest part of the trail, in my opinion, physically.
It was the hardest day for me by far. Went through that sick, ended up breaking my poles that day. Just a complete shit show of a day. And we made it to Grafton Notch, which has like not a major road, but a hitchable road.
And the town is Bethel, Maine, right?
Yeah. So the next morning I went to the road just to hitch into town. Really, I just needed to, get some rest. I got a hitch into town from a thru-hiker's wife, which was really cool. She took me to Gorham, which was nice.
Wow. So you went into Gorham 3 times then?
Yep. 3
That's
times.
So funny.
Yeah, I spent a total of 5 nights, I think, there. But she gave me her number and she said she'd bring me back to Grafton Notch, whenever I was ready, which was awesome.
That's so nice.
Because I had that insurance, and I felt pretty confident that I was going to be able to, keep going. Looking back, I probably should have got off there, to be totally honest. But yeah, so I spent 2 days there. That was tough because the crew left, which was rough. That was a kind of a morale blow.
Now you're making me feel bad. I honestly thought you were going to catch up. I really didn't think you were going to have to spend more than a day resting up. And the other times we had split up, you were always able to catch up. So I don't know. We all felt really bad, like leaving you behind.
It's all right, man. It's all right.
I still feel bad about it.
And that's the thing with the trail. Like you can't wait for people. You can't be on someone else's schedule. You've got to do what's best for you and your hike because things can happen.
Exactly.
And if you're just waiting around for someone, like, I don't know, in my opinion, you're doing it wrong. Just you got to keep going.
I kind of figured that you wouldn't have wanted us to wait for you either. I felt like it was kind of a lose-lose because if we had waited, you would have felt like you were holding us up. And if we had kept going, you would have felt like you were getting behind. So either way, it was just kind of a bad situation all around.
Yeah, so the first day in Gorham just was basically recovery. I was planning on going out the next day, woke up. That definitely was not happening. And I kind of made a plan. My plan was I was going to do shorter days like 10-mile days. If that didn't work, I was going to slack. And then if that didn't work, I would take 2 to 3 additional days off and then reevaluate.
Just real quick, can you kind of explain what slack packing is, just for people who don't know?
Sure. So when you stay at a hostel, it only works in certain sections where there's a lot of roads. But for the most part, you leave your you stay at a hostel, you leave all your stuff at the hostel, and then you just take like a day pack out. You just take like a lunch, your water filter, and like some other stuff that you might need out there. Makes your pack really light, and you just hike to like a road, whatever the next road is, or 2 roads ahead, really however far you want, and then the hostel comes back and picks you up and brings you back. Yeah, it's basically you're hiking the trail, but you're not carrying any of your stuff. I would say that's still a controversial topic. Some people say that it doesn't count. Some people say that it does, but I think it's pretty widely accepted as hiking. I think it's hiking.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I didn't really meet too many people that had a problem with slack packing. It was really only Classic, and I can't remember if Flossie didn't like it. I don't think Flossie cared. It was pretty much only Classic, this guy we were hiking with, that would make a big deal about it. But the way I look at it, you're still hiking the whole trail. It's not like you skipped a section. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever.
Yeah, it really just came down to the point where hiking with my pack on was just like not going to cut it anymore. So anyway, after that I did 4 10-mile days, and slowly realizing what was going on, it would just take everything in me to get 10 miles. I mean, and that's not very much for what we were doing.
Right, and granted that part of the trail is very difficult, but still,
it's tough. It's tough. Did like 4 of those. Got to Rangeley, I believe, and I went to find a place to slack pack there. Well, turns out their entire slack pack is completely full. So I ended up going from Rangeley to whatever the next town was. Pretty much the end of the hard part. I don't remember what it is, but I ended up doing like, I think 3 days to that, and that was only like 30 miles or something.
So you were still feeling really sick this whole time?
Yeah, and every day it was just getting worse, just from a weakness standpoint. And every day, I was slowly coming to the realization, like, there's a chance that I'm not going to be able to make it, which was tough to deal with. But
yeah, especially after coming over 2,000 miles at that point. I mean, you were so close.
Yeah, yep. Actually, at one point, I bailed out on I walked 4 miles on a logging road to get into town because I was not going to be able to make it.
Is that really rainy day?
Yeah. I think I texted you actually.
Yeah, or you had texted Indy or somebody, because I remember them mentioning that you had like bailed out like on a logging road or some shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, because at that time I still had a really small chance of being able to catch you guys, and I knew right then that it was over. I wasn't going to be able to catch you because I just cut a day in half, which when you're trying to catch up to someone, everything counts. Like,
especially that close to the end when there really just wasn't that many miles left, not as much time to catch up.
Yeah, and just in general, if someone's 2 days behind you, that's pretty far behind, especially if they were really hiking, doing 20s and stuff, but kind of like we were. If you're more with a crew that's just kind of messing around, it's not bad at all. But like, you got to make up those 40 miles. You got to make 5 miles up here, 10 miles up here, and just hope that whoever you're trying to catch maybe like shaves a couple miles off here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So I got over all the 4,000 footers. I slack packed, I think, 2 days, over the last 4,000 footer until Katahdin. Like, still feeling just weak and sick. Was throwing up every morning. Have no idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
No idea what was going on. I really couldn't eat anything until like noon or 1. Like, my stomach was just destroyed. So then, I was pretty happy that I was able to get over the 4,000 footers. and there's a real easy section from it's 20 miles from the bottom of the last 4,000 footer to the Kennebec River.
Yep.
And so I was able to do that in one day, and I felt pretty good. I camped at the river actually, so that was good. I kind of had a little hope there, but the next day I stopped in to a hostel, grabbed some food, and I kept going. And I don't know if you remember, it's a very minor part of the trail, but there's 6 miles between Caratunk and I want to say it's Moxie Bald or something like that.
I remember Caratunk and I remember Moxie Bald. I think it's a little bit more than 6 miles because we hiked from Caratunk to that next shelter out, and I believe that was like a 6-mile hike. So I think we hit Moxie Bald the next morning or something like that.
Okay, so that's actually where I hiked to, that shelter.
Okay.
I was kind of feeling bad the morning of. I just kind of attribute it to doing the 10-mile day, or sorry, the 20-mile day before. And so, sure enough, I start puking again, and then it just gets to the point where I can't even walk anymore. Like I'm just dry heaving.
Jesus.
I need to go get some rest. Yeah. So I just knocked on some random woman's door, and she told me how to get back. I think it was like a 10-mile walk back into town, but I randomly got service like halfway through, and I was able to call a hostel to give me a ride, which was really nice. Yeah, when I was at the hostel, I was just kind of taking it day by day. I think I was there a total of 4 days.
So you were still trying to make it at this point. You hadn't.
Yeah. I'd say on the end of the 3rd day, I called my parents and I was like, hey, it's to the point where I don't really feel that it would be responsible to keep going, especially with the 100-mile wilderness approaching.
Right, where there's no easy spots to bail out there. So
yeah, and still, I'm sure I could have done it, and probably someone who is a little more, I don't want to say driven, but hard-headed than me would probably do it. I'm not trying to make excuses at all. I didn't hike the entire Appalachian Trail, but I chose to get off, But in my opinion, it just wasn't worth doing when I knew I could just do it another year. And like I said, I made a plan. I did everything I could, but in the end, it didn't work. So
when you finally made that call that you were done, that you were gonna get off the trail, were you more relieved just to be done, or were you kind of still disappointed? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you were disappointed, but what was your immediate thought? Were you more just excited to be off to kind of rest up and hopefully make yourself feel better? Or were you still pretty bummed out about the fact that you hiked over 2,000 miles? I mean, how many miles from Caratunk to Katahdin is there? Is it going to be less than 150, right?
It's about 150.
About 150, okay.
And that's, other than the chairbacks, it's pretty much flat the whole way, which that was even more frustrating,
Right.
Yeah, man, it was a mixture. I was definitely, like I said, I just didn't feel comfortable going on in a different way than just feeling comfortable, if that makes sense. I didn't feel comfortable as in something could happen. I thought, maybe I'd get stuck out there or something like that.
Especially because, like I said earlier, going through the 100-mile wilderness, first of all, there's not any places to bail. Well, there are some places you can bail out, but it's a lot more difficult, and there certainly wasn't very much cell service throughout that section. And second of all, you would have had to do some pretty big mileage to get through, carrying enough food to get through all that shit. So you would have had to push, and you weren't feeling well, so it makes sense.
Yeah, so I called my parents, and they came. They were gracious enough to come and pick me up. But I think I know what it was.
I was gonna ask. That's probably the fucking biggest question here. What was going on? What was the problem?
Yeah, I just think that I wasn't getting enough calories in, and really, honestly, it was because of my decision to go cold soak. Which it's crazy that at that point I had went almost 2,000 miles cold soaking, or 1,800 miles cold soaking. it just caught up with me, man. I just really couldn't eat anything, and when I did, I just throw it right back up.
So I still don't understand. Like, did you go to a doctor or anything? Because I don't really understand why the lack of calories would cause you to throw up.
Yeah, honestly, I think that part was like more stress related.
Okay, yeah.
Just because pretty much from the time that I left you until when I stopped, it was a death march, pretty much. Like, I don't think at that point anyone really wants to be hiking because you've come really far at that point, but it just hit like a whole new level where I just yeah, like I said, I just couldn't keep going, and that's just how it was, man.
Such a
like
bummer.
I can't explain it. Yeah, it's such a bummer, and it really sucks, but it is what it is, and I'll finish it up. And
Exactly.
I had a lot of fun out there. I really did.
Exactly. I mean, the most like cliche trail saying ever is like, "Oh, the trail will always be there, man." But it's true. You'll be able to go back next summer or whenever the hell you want, finish it up, and you'll still have hiked the entire Appalachian Trail. And I guess when it comes down to it, that's what's most important. So
yeah, man, it's still a tough pill to swallow, and I'll definitely finish it up, but man, rough.
It's rough, yeah.
It's all right though.
It's rough, and it sounds like you have a pretty good attitude about it. I mean, you're not down in the dumps about it. You're not like unwilling to talk about it. So, that's just the way it goes. Shit happens, and yep. I'm sure you still had a pretty fucking crazy ass journey.
It was awesome, man.
Anybody who hikes on the Appalachian Trail will. So, all right. Well, that's pretty much all I have for today, Mullet.
Sweet, man.
Thanks again for taking the time.
Yeah.
I guess before we sign off here, do you have any future hiking plans? I mean, I know we just kind of touched on going back and finishing up that last little section there, but in the future, do you think you'll ever plan another Thru-Hike, or do you have any shorter hikes on your mind? Just what does the future for Mullet hold when it comes to hiking in the trail?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm going to finish up the AT, but I would be lying if I said that I hadn't been watching PCT videos already.
There it is.
But it'd be tough to find a job that could support, long section hikes. And I really think that's the way to go. Just because by the end of the Thru-Hike, man, you're just so burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
I just really think like doing the PCT or the CDT, if I did it like state at a time or something like that, I think I'd enjoy it. As far as just like, I should say my body would enjoy it more.
Right.
Obviously the things that come with Thru-Hiking, the camaraderie and, all the friends that you meet out there and all the crazy experiences you have, that's kind of hard to beat. But, yeah, man, I think definitely PCT one day, maybe when I'm retired. I don't know. We'll figure it out. How about you?
I don't know, man. I definitely won't be doing a Thru-Hike within the next couple years, I don't think.
Yeah, for sure.
But, next summer I'll be working on finishing up the 4,000 footers I have.
Nice.
There's a couple up in Maine I still have to go get because the trail went like within like a half mile or a mile of a couple of peaks, but I was like, no, I can't do the extra miles. Like I was just trying to get there and the weather was shitty. So I'll go back and do those. And then I think I'm going to try to do either the PCT or the CDT. Probably the PCT. I don't know if I have the balls to do the CDT yet, but maybe do a PCT Thru-Hike in the next, couple years here, depending on how long I stay at work and, where my career takes me, I guess. So
for sure.
We'll see. Anyways, thanks again, Mullet. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this shit here with me today.
For sure. Talk some shit.
It was good catching up. Don't hang up quite yet because I got to go over a couple things once we're done recording, but
okay.
That's pretty much the end of the episode. Thank you everyone for listening, and I hope everything goes well on the rest of your drive or your work day or whatever the hell you're doing while you're listening to this. I don't know. But yeah, take it easy everybody. Thanks for listening.